Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into a single, very powerful source. It's the introduction to Albert Haddi's book, Citizenship for Sale.
And he frames it right away as this major expose, doesn't he? A global security crisis happening, well, right now.
Exactly. So our mission here is pretty focused.
Eh.
Pull out the key insights from just this introduction. Specifically, what does it say about how these citizenship by investment CBI and residency by investment RBI programs are supposedly being exploited?
And why Hadi thinks it's such a critical, urgent problem today.
Right. He starts with this really provocative idea to grab you. Your neighbor might be a terrorist, not some movie caricature, but someone with a completely legal identity, an identity potentially bought through these programs.
Yeah, and he stresses this isn't about, paranoia. He argues it's about a new reality we need to understand for global security.
It's definitely a strong opening. He frames it not just as an intel problem, but something potentially very local, very real.
Enabled by systems that seem, on the surface, completely legitimate.
Okay, so let's unpack that. These CBI and RBI programs, what exactly are they, according to Hadi's intro? He says they weren't always seen this way.
That's right. He explains they've really mushroomed over the last decade or so, found in, over 24 countries now?
Wow.
And initially they were pitched, or at least justified, as economic development tools, bring in foreign money, investment.
But he argues they've, quote, quietly morphed into dangerous legal loopholes. So what's the core issue now, as Hadi sees it?
Well, he describes their function today as less about boosting economies and more like laundering pipelines.
Laundering pipelines.
Yeah, but not just for money, though that's part of it.
Yeah.
Critically, for identity. He argues they're being used to buy a legitimate presence, legitimate access around the world.
Okay, so who does Hadi actually claim is using these loopholes then?
He points specifically to criminals, yeah, but also fugitive elites trying to escape justice. And central to his whole argument, extremist actors.
Extremists?
Yes, he explicitly names senior figures from groups like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hezbollah as allegedly using these systems.
Yeah, getting one of these golden passports, as people call them. What does that actually achieve for them? How are they leveraging it?
This is Hadi's main point here. They are literally purchasing legal identity. And he contends that for these operatives, a clean, legitimate ID isn't just helpful, it's a weapon.
A weapon? How so?
It lets them disappear, hide in plain sight, move money across borders without raising red flags, access global banking, and, crucially, embed themselves deep within communities, thousands of miles from where they might have operated before.
Okay, and why is this even possible? Based on his introduction, what makes these systems vulnerable?
He points to some pretty systemic weaknesses. First, weak due diligence. That's the background checks, checking where the money comes from.
Right.
He also mentions inconsistent vetting protocols. Different countries, different standards, basically.
So it's fragmented.
Exactly. And maybe the biggest thing, a total lack of global regulatory oversight. It creates gaps that, he argues, sophisticated actors know how to exploit.
Now, this is where Hadi really makes the case for urgency. He's saying this isn't theoretical, it's happening now. Why the urgency, according to him?
He links it directly to, major recent events, the collapse of ISIS's physical caliphate in Syria and Iraq, and he also mentions the fall of Assad's regime. These events, he argues, raise a massive question. Where did all those thousands of fighters, operatives, regime figures actually go?
Right, they didn't just evaporate.
Precisely. Hadi says intelligence, migration patterns, security data all suggest many relocated, and his point is they didn't just head for remote caves. He claims many aim for European capitals, North American cities, wealthy areas.
Right.
Often, specifically in countries that offer these CBI or RBI programs.
What's he suggesting?
He states it's probable that some, armed with illicit cash and now purchased documents, have slipped into the EU and the US under completely new identities.
And he uses numbers to back this up, particularly focusing on Europe and the US. What does he cite?
For Europe, he points to data. Over 1,500 people arrested on terrorism charges in just 3 years. And these were people who had successfully used legal immigration channels, got residency blended in, basically, while planning attacks.
Wow. Any specific examples?
He gives some recent ones from 2024.
Yeah.
Belgium charging 3 ISIS operatives plotting attacks. Germany arresting 7 planning similar things. An Iraqi sleeper agent found in Germany right before Euro 2024.
Okay, quite specific. And for the U.S., his focus seems to shift there.
It shifts dramatically, yeah. To the southern border, he cites the sheer volume, almost 11 million unauthorized encounters since October 2019.
11 million.
He puts it in perspective. That's roughly the entire population of Ohio crossing without prior screening.
That's a staggering number.
And within that huge number, among those actually caught, he highlights over 390 individuals who were found on terrorist watch lists.
390.
And he calls that a 3,000% increase compared to previous periods.
But his argument isn't just about those they caught, right?
No, exactly. He also references Border Patrol estimates suggesting maybe 20% more, maybe even higher, could have crossed totally undetected. Gotaways, they call them.
He uses this really vivid thought experiment. Imagine a city of 100,000 people. Based on these kinds of numbers, what's the statistical chance dozens could be living there with unknown identities, unknown backgrounds, maybe hostile intent?
Right. And what he concludes from looking at this scale, this raises an important question for him. He says this isn't just bad luck or overwhelmed systems. He argues it points to deliberate exploitation.
Deliberate.
Yes, by sophisticated criminal and terrorist networks who've studied the weaknesses and are actively manipulating them.
And he talks about this exploitation happening from both ends. What does he mean by that?
Okay, so one end is the direct purchase of legal identity through those CBI programs we mentioned. He names places like Cyprus, Malta, Dominica as examples, countries whose passports often grant easy, visa-free travel to the U.S. and the EU.
And the cost. People might think, surely that's too expensive.
He addresses that directly. For major terror groups with huge budgets, he claims spending, say, $100,000 on a clean passport is just pocket change, a cost of doing business.
Okay, so that's one end. What's the other end of this exploitation?
The other end, he argues, is exploiting the, quote, chaos at our borders. The sheer volume makes it impossible to screen everyone thoroughly. He talks about processing millions from 160 countries. Many arrive with documents from places like Venezuela, Honduras, Guatemala, Syria, places where verifying who someone really is or if their documents are real is incredibly difficult, sometimes impossible. Instability, conflict, corruption.
And the smugglers bringing them aren't exactly checking backgrounds.
Exactly. Hadi says they don't ask questions if the money's good. So the situation becomes, in his words, a security lottery.
A lottery.
And the winners, from his perspective, are the predators. The ones who can blend in precisely because individual scrutiny just isn't feasible when the system is that overwhelmed.
So, listening to this introduction, Hadi is arguing this goes way beyond typical debates about immigration policy or border security, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If you connect the dots he's laying out, his core argument is about the weaponization of legal systems.
Weaponization of legal systems.
Yeah. He's saying the enemies he's focused on aren't just using bombs or spies in the old-fashioned sense. They're using lawyers, investment consultants, allegedly corrupt officials, people who've turned citizenship into a commodity, a transaction.
And he makes a really stark claim about what this means for national security itself.
He does. He basically says, look, if groups like Iran's proxies or ISIS operatives can legally buy passports, giving them access to Western cities, or if they can get legitimate-looking documents that let them just disappear into our communities, then traditional counterterrorism methods start to look obsolete.
Obsolete.
In his words, the entire concept of national security becomes meaningless in that scenario.
He really leans into the math of it, too, arguing you simply can't screen millions effectively given the resources, the capacity, the unreliable verification overseas.
Yes, he's quite blunt about it. He dismisses relying on hope as any kind of security strategy here.
And it's important we stress how he frames this argument. He insists it's not political.
That's right. He emphasizes repeatedly this is presented as a national security argument, pure and simple.
And the stakes.
He believes the cost of getting it wrong, of essentially trading citizenship for cash without truly watertight due diligence, is ultimately paid in blood, paid in life.
So wrapping our heads around this introduction, what's the big picture Hadi paints?
Well, it's a deeply unsettling picture, isn't it? He's arguing that legal identity itself has been turned into a product. And in the wrong hands, that product becomes a powerful weapon for those who want to cause harm.
He seems to be calling for awareness, but trying to steer clear of just causing panic.
Right. He suggests what he calls a silent infiltration might already be happening. Not soldiers climbing walls, but he claims wire transfers, paperwork, and governments may be prioritizing profit over security.
It really forces you, the listener, to confront this uncomfortable idea that someone seemingly normal, integrated, might not be who they appear, according to his thesis.
Yeah, the intro serves as a stark warning. And he insists it's grounded in evidence presumably detailed later in the book, a warning about the vulnerability created when citizenship becomes a commodity.
And he promises the rest of the book will lay out that evidence, the specific loopholes, the arrests he connects to this, the system failures, naming names even, the enablers and the exploiters.
As he puts it so bluntly in the intro, you don't need to climb a fence to attack a country anymore. Maybe all you need is a check and a form.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on, based on what we've unpacked from Hadi's introduction. If terrorists, as he suggests, aren't just trying to sneak in anymore, but could be walking right through the front door, legally, with a purchased passport, what does that fundamentally change? How do countries even begin to approach security then?
And he leaves you with that really chilling final thought in the intro. He might already be here.